With the Bulls embarking on familiar territory as the play-in arises, can we honestly say that we can give a guy like Coby White and Josh Giddey an extension? Is it time to have that conversation? We'll talk about all of that and more next on the Chicago Sports Podcast.
Let's go. Yo. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. And that's facts.
Hello, and welcome to the Chicago Sports Podcast. We are your hosts. I am D Nice. That's my man Bishop. And what we're here to talk about today, we're here to talk about the Chicago Bulls. And we are in the midst of celebrating the familiar territory that they're about to embark on, which is the play-in, which is something that's become common with us, for the last couple of years with Billy Donovan at the helm. And you know, this is a bittersweet moment for the Bulls because at the beginning of the season, all the prognostication was the Bulls are going to be bottom of the barrel, finish with less than 25 wins, and in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. You know, we have to give kudos to Billy Donovan for doing a good coaching job and bringing the Bulls back to some respectability after losing their best player in Zach LaVine and all of the player turmoil that's going on as far as players' injuries and word of mouth of people hearing their name in trade talks and things of that nature, we still end up in a situation where we in the play-in and we can compete to make it to the playoffs. I have to take my hat off to the players as well. Josh Giddey has really turned it on, and so has Coby White. And speaking of which, being that those guys have been the two best players going down the stretch of this season, is it time to talk max contract? Can we have the max contract conversation when it concerns Coby White and Josh Giddey? That's the real question. So I'm gonna pass it to Bishop and see how he feels about that topic, and we're gonna flow on from there.
Well, D Nice, man, it's a pleasure again to be on the show with you as always. With regard to the topic, first of all, I gotta say this: Coby White to me has nine lives because this is a young man that I can recall and remember. Name was mentioned synonymously with any trades that were being spoken about in the past. I mean, to the point where his name was even mentioned back when the Bulls was trying to get DeMar DeRozan along with other players. So this guy has survived all of the trade talks, all of the rumors of being shopped and everything else. And like a true professional that he is, he has weathered that storm. He's never gotten down on himself. He's never not played or performed to a level to where he's playing at like right now. And because of that, I guess that's the reason why now the consideration, or at least the conversation of should he be considered for a max contract. And then with regard to Josh Giddey, the young man has really turned it on this season and has really been producing and making a name for himself and being noticed throughout the NBA. So is it time? Myself personally, I think it might be just a tad bit premature, only because, let's see how things play out as far as the play in as well as the playoffs. But I mean, what where would we be in sports if we didn't have premature conversation about things, especially contract talk? So um I think it's a little premature, but at the same time, has their production warranted the thought of? Absolutely. And because of that, you know what? Let me back that up. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not quite sure if Max contract would be um, for either one, but I think that they could definitely warrant some top pay within the NBA. I'm not quite. I'm on the fence about the whole max contract thing. So I'm gonna reserve that for a later conversation. But for
Mhm.
right now, I do think that their level of production, especially this season, definitely does warrant the conversation of extension with major pay raises. What's your thoughts, man?
Well, I'm gonna start with Josh Giddey first. This Josh Giddey situation, everybody at the beginning of the year was saying how the Bulls got fleeced by OKC because they gave a role player up in Alex Caruso, who was an excellent defender, to get a guy like Josh Giddey, who's an all around basketball player. Now he's not as great as on defense, or he's not a great shooter, but as far as a basketball player is concerned, that's exactly what he is. You know,
Hmm.
he's a Australian guy that is of the era of the positionless player, and he can do a whole lot. He can do a whole lot of everything. I kind of, would like to compare this addition to Josh Giddey to a Houston getting someone like James Harden, you know, as he began to reach his peak as a basketball player. Now,
Mm.
time time will tell if Giddey is able to have a sustainable impact like Harden did with Houston. And of course, we have to leave it up to AK and company to add pieces around, him, because he is our best player. Let's just keep it a buck. He is our best player. He's the point guard, and he's going to be in charge of tempo and leading the team. From this point on. Now, as far as a max contract, I think we could have that conversation with him, because if you look at his numbers going down the stretch, they're max worthy. And we also see his impact on the basketball game. So to me, the epitome of a great player is how his numbers can add to team success. And Giddy
Right.
showing that, going down the stretch, even though this is the play in, but at the beginning of the season, the Bulls were looked at as, on the race for Cooper Flag. So this is two different spectrums now, and you have to respect the fact that at least they got to the play-in with the chance to get into the playoffs. So if these guys perform in this play-in situation, it only ups their value.
Hmm.
So and it only makes the conversation of the contracts more interesting. Now, Coby White, on the other hand, to me, a max player, I don't think he is. But the problem with that, being a Chicago Bulls fan, is that he's one of the best players on the Chicago Bulls. That doesn't necessarily make him a max worthy player in the eyes of NBA execs, or just the eyes of the NBA, the fans that watch basketball on a regular basis. He can be one of those third tier guys, or to me, what Kobe is, he's the best. He's a sixth man on the championship team. You know, but he's in a position where the Bulls don't have many, A-list players. He's just a B. He's just a B guy. You know what I'm saying? Performing with a bunch of B's and C's. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I
So
hear you.
a max conversation involving Kobe White, I don't think it may be worth having. You don't want to lose a guy like Kobe right now. I think he's making like 12 million, and that's if you want to up him, probably 16 to 18 million. I think he's right there at that. To me, a max player is dropping at least 25 or better a night. That's what a max player is, if scoring is your thing. But I made the exception for Josh Giddey because Josh Giddey is an excellent rebounder. He also is an excellent facilitator. So that's the
Right.
difference. It's kind of levels between the two. That's why I'm more for the match conversation with Josh Giddey over a guy like Coby White.
Well, I hear you on that, man. I think either way, they're gonna have to pay these guys. Now they're gonna have to determine what the value is for each one of them with respect
Hmm.
to the team. But
Yeah.
like you said, the key is really what pieces are you going to be able to put around these guys for next season, so you're not considered the team on the outside looking in. You're actually a team that is competing for a playoff spot, one of those top six spots, or top five, or top six spots. So
Yeah.
you gotta really sit down and do some really evaluating this coming off season
Hmm.
and determine one, what your style of play is going to be moving forward, and more importantly, um, what pieces can you insert to help elevate you and give you an extra um, 10, 15, close to 20 additional wins next season. So it's going to be interesting, man. It's definitely going to be interesting. I have to admit, I kind of took a little time off from the NBA because of
Uh-huh.
I just kind of grew tired of what I consider the crybaby syndrome of of these big time multimillionaires making money playing a game that we all love to play for free, you know.
Right.
So and now you got guys that, you know, crying about being coached hard and other things, to where it just really, man, it kind of soured me, man, on the NBA. But I have to admit, I'm very surprised, but also impressed with the way the Bulls have been playing.
Hmm.
And I was kind of down on Billy Donovan, um, honestly, but he has shown that he has been coaching these young men, and they've been responding to his coaching. So kudos to him as well at this point, man. And who knows, man, with this play-in situation, all they gotta do is win two games, and then
Yeah.
and now they're in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
I mean, let's wait and see, man. It's gonna be interesting.
Hey man, all you want is a chance. At the end of the day, when you get in a situation like this, what you want as a basketball player to show the world who you are, what you want as a coach to show the league what you are as a coach is an
Hmm.
opportunity. That's all you want. And to piggyback what you said about you stepping away from the game is I totally respect the perspective, because you're being an old school guy. This is just something different from what you used to seeing. Now, another thing that AK and Company has to figure out, and what they have to do, number one, is to avoid the hamster wheel. And I know a lot of people, when I made my opinion known about Coby White, it's a lot of people that may feel like I'm hating on Coby. I'm not doing that. Kobe's an excellent guy, averaging 20 points a game with the Bulls. Without a A+ player next to him. And my fear in maxing out Coby White is the same fear that I had 6 years ago when it came down to maxing out a guy like Zach LaVine. You know,
Mm,
this conversation was had about Zach LaVine and the whole thing. Oh, we can't afford to lose him. This, that, this, that. Now, how did that work out for us? We're in the same situation with Zach LaVine. We're in the same situation without Zach LaVine that we were in with Zach LaVine.
yeah,
So that's not max worthy. And this is one thing that we're going to have to avoid this time around when looking at a guy like Coby White and even Josh Giddey, because it's also premonitions about him. But I've always been high on Giddey. I just felt like Giddey was in a situation in Oklahoma City, as you can see, that he's surrounded by more A list type of players, you know, than he is with the Bulls. And even though he's surrounded by those type of guys, and that one guy being SGA, who's an MVP worthy guy, So he's an A plus plus player. You get what
Right.
I'm saying? But he still had
Yes.
flashes in OKC where you seen his brilliance. You seen, his ability to play the game at a very high level and play it the right way at the same time. Now, back to Coby White and this max conversation with him. Because when you give Coby White the max, what you're saying is, all right, Coby, we know that you can raise your game up to another level, meaning we want 5 or 6 more points. We need 3 or 4 more assists and actually 2 more rebounds from you to raise you at this max level. And can you get these numbers but also impacting wins? Now,
Each
Kobe's
each and every
representation
night. Each and every
each and
night
every
too
night.
now.
Each and every
Yeah.
night. Now, Kobe's representation and Kobe himself should always think highly of himself. He should always feel like, if it's anything below the max, he's being lowball. He should feel like that. But ain't no facts and feelings. You see what I'm saying? Like we want to we want to get with the truth. Okay? Now, again, I'm not a hater of Coby White, and for the people who's going to fix their mind or fix their mouth to say so, okay, whatever. I'm just speaking my truth. But the max conversation is pretty premature when it comes down, especially with, what I'm saying, not knowing how they're going to perform
Right.
in these playoff situations. Because now Josh is the bona fide leader of the team as far as the point guard. That's who Josh is. Kobe is the hired gun to come out there and get as many points as he possibly can on a night-to-night basis. This is the role we're playing. This is the role that those two guys are playing for the Chicago Bulls. Because we have a lot of nice young players. Patrick Williams, he's just so inconsistent, but he has nights where he shows that, he could be pretty good, you know, and you pay him $90 million. So, this is the thing. Like, we have to avoid paying this number to guys that's not really earning it. We're paying it based off of potential, and I think that's a recipe for disaster.
But
You know,
it's been a
like
recipe for disaster. But you think about it, D Nice. That's been a recipe for disaster for the past 10 years, and
which
not longer.
Which is what my point is. Like, come on, man. Like, hey, if we lose a guy like Kobe, then so be it. Because we lost Ben Gordon just the same.
Yeah.
We offered Ben Gordon a decent contract. He felt like he was better, and his career was never the same.
Yeah.
So, listen, that's where we at with Coby White. We're in the Ben Gordon territory with Coby White, in my personal opinion. So, the max contract, I don't think it's time to talk about that with him. And another thing you said I want to hop on before we get up out of here. Billy Donovan. Now, Billy Donovan, most people, most Bulls fans, they want him gone. At one point, I was there too. But if I look back on it, the Bulls were at the beginning of the year, they gave Billy Donovan this mess and said, "Hey, you're going to have to change this, change that, raise your tempo, raise your pace, get guys more aggressive, get my guys more hungry." And they really was asking him to turn a Accord into a Maserati, you know? So, um, throughout this basketball season, the Bulls have kind of like went through this metamorphosis, as far as a basketball team trying to figure out an identity. They seem to me it looked like they found something after the All-Star break, or maybe just before. When you seen the pace raise, when you seen the 3-pointers going up all over the place, and then as the season at the end of the season, you saw the kind of the defensive intensity raise too. Billy Donovan is as old school as it gets, and for him to kind of take a step back from himself and to change his philosophies into the more modern game and to get these results, you have to kind of take your hats off. Kind of have to take your hat off to him.
Totally
So
agree.
now the target is on AK and company to get this guy more players, get him better players, not just more but better. You
Yeah.
know. So with that being said, you know, I'd like to know what you guys think. You know, for the guys that's watching this, please like and subscribe if you're new here. And with that, let's see if Bishop you have anything else to add.
I think this is something to add, but not so much for us to elaborate on. Is for everybody out there, maybe let's have this thought. Um, One, the question is: have the Bulls um, overachieved this season? And more importantly, like you said, putting the pressure on uh, the powers that be upstairs. Do you feel you have the necessary pieces in place now to be able to attract the free agent or a superstar to come and play along with these guys? One in particular that has expressed in the past that he has kind of an affection for the Bulls would be a guy like Giannis. So you guys think about that. Marinate on that. I'm quite sure we're going to end up revisiting this conversation and topic um, in the near future. And when we do so, be love to have you guys kind of chime in and tell us what your thoughts are as well. But with that, D Nights, I'm gonna pass it back to you, and then we can get ready to get on out of here.
Yeah. So everybody, listen. Please share your opinions in the comments on Josh Giddey and Coby White. Do you feel like these guys are worth a max contract? You know, with the way the Bulls are playing, and it looks like things are only going to get better in Chicago as far as basketball is concerned. At least that's the way it looks for right now. But yeah, leave your comments in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. You guys take it easy. Be safe out there. And we seeing red all day. Peace out.
Peace out.